What are a few of the scariest crimes that can happen to anyone? Let's find out, starting with number 6. He didn't do anything wrong. Paola Garcia, a Spirit Airlines passenger, had her luggage straight up stolen at the Fort Lauderdale-Hollywood International Airport, and she tracked it down on her own to an airport employee's house. Yeah, they're stealing your luggage now. After her plane landed, Garcia waited at Terminal 4 for her pink hard-shell suitcase, but it never arrived. This suitcase contained her MacBook, 2 Apple Watches, an iPad, jewelry, and some designer clothes. Desperate for her stuff, especially her laptop which she needed for college, Garcia needlessly spent hours at the carousel waiting for her bag. Anyway, Garcia had tossed an AirTag into her luggage, a smart move. So the next day, she used her Apple Watch to see where it was. Why she didn't lead with that, we're not too sure, because that should have been her first step. The tag led her to a location suspiciously near the airport, so Garcia headed to the location and found her suitcase at the home of Junior Bazile, an airport retail store employee. Garcia also noticed several other suitcases at Bazile's property, leading her to suspect an organized theft ring, so she called 911. Junior Bazile, 29, was captured on surveillance video taking Garcia's suitcase to the back room of the store where he worked. He rummaged through it, even using her MacBook. When he was confronted by authorities, Bazile had already tossed most of Garcia's belongings. Bazile was arrested and charged with third-degree grand theft. He pleaded not guilty and refused to answer any questions from reporters, which means he probably isn't the only one doing this. Things got a little crazy when Local 10 reporter Jeff Wainsier visited Bazile's mother at the same house. She was cool at first, but then the switch flipped like you'd expect. Bazile's mother snatched Weinsier's ID badge and started screaming for help. She then physically went after Wainsier, who got the police involved, but later declined to press charges. The police returned his ID, and the whole thing was caught on camera. Spirit Airlines, though not directly implicated, reimbursed Garcia as a courtesy, which is a nice thing to do when people lose their luggage. Delta. Okay, maybe we've got it out for Delta. Anyway, an airport spokesman pointed fingers at the airline, but statistics show that Spirit is actually one of the least likely airlines to lose luggage. Not that airports care about facts when it comes to taking responsibility for mistakes. And despite Bazile's arrest, there are many unanswered questions about how he even had access to Garcia's suitcase in the first place and the possibility of a broader theft ring at the airport. So if you're traveling, it's really helpful to use a tracking device such as an AirTag with your checked luggage. Always keep all expensive items with you in your carry-on bag, such as any jewelry, high-end watches, and even designer clothing. Number 5. Let me see your phone. Briana Siaca, a former New York beauty queen turned real estate agent, lost $2,000 to a pair of teenage con artists running a Zelle scam. The scam went down in Madison Square Park when 2 teens approached her claiming to be raising money for their Bronx youth basketball team. Without any cash on her, Siaca followed the boys to use her phone to input their team's information into her Zelle account. Instead, they immediately transferred $2,000 to themselves and fled. Oh, those little rascals. Siaca immediately went to the NYPD's 13th precinct, where she identified the suspects from subway footage. The teens, who were already known to law enforcement, had 2 open warrants each. The police explained to her that these teens, along with others from New Jersey, regularly targeted people in parks. The beauty queen, crowned Miss New York in 2021, shared her experience on social media, hoping to prevent others from falling victim to similar scams. Despite facing ridicule, why people were mocking her for being nice and donating to teens is anyone's guess. She pointed out the importance of raising awareness so other decent people don't fall for the same thing. Siaca talked about how disarming and genuine the teens seemed, tugging at her heartstrings with stories about their basketball team. During the scam, Siaca explained that she was also under the influence of nerve damage medication, which left her feeling a bit disoriented. Reflecting on the incident, she acknowledged the teens' skill in deception, but also that maybe she wasn't as sharp as she normally is. While her bank is uncertain about recovering the stolen money, they never are, Siaca decided to use her platform to warn others. Siaca's social media post received a mix of support and mockery, which is par for the course on the internet, right? Some people were questioning her street smarts despite her long residency in New York City and her Brentwood, Long Island roots. The lesson here is to never hand your phone unlocked to a stranger. We know that seems obvious, but since there's apparently a bunch of kids running around doing this, maybe it's no. Number 4. Back to meeting in person. An unnamed employee at Arup, an international engineering firm, was duped out of $25 million by scammers using advanced AI technology. This heist was pulled off with a deep fake of the company's CFO, fooling the employee into believing they were on a genuine video call. Earlier in 2024, in the Hong Kong office of Arup, a finance department employee attended a video call that seemed entirely legitimate. The employee legit thought they were speaking with the company's CFO and other staff members. However, the others on the call were actually sophisticated AI-generated deepfakes crafted from publicly available video and audio recordings. During the call, the employee was instructed to transfer approximately $25.6 million spread over 15 transactions to 5 local bank accounts. It took about a week before the employee realized they had been scammed when they tried to follow up with the company's headquarters. Deepfake technology, driven by advancements in AI, is becoming a significant tool for scammers. These high-tech deceptions are challenging to detect and are being used to target both companies and individuals. Authorities in Hong Kong have warned of similar scams, including one involving a fake video of Elon Musk used to lure people into investing in fraudulent crypto software. The way AI is going, this whole thing feels like the very tip of the AI scam iceberg, doesn't it? AI will make things more efficient, but it's also making crime more efficient as well. It's way easier to create realistic fake identities, so the need for in-person meetings may become essential to prevent such frauds. Luckily, we don't fall for that stuff. For example, we actually know Scarlett Johansson when she messaged us on Skype, and we talk to her pretty much all the time to give her advice on how not to get scammed. For a rich celebrity, she does seem to borrow a lot of money, though. Number 3, the jury duty notice. One unfortunate 18-year-old college student from Arizona, who goes by the name of Mar on TikTok, was conned out of $750 by scammers posing as court officials. They threatened her with arrest for supposedly missing jury duty, demanding a fine to avoid jail time. Fraudsters pretending to be police or court officials called victims, claiming they missed jury duty. The scammers then demanded immediate payment, threatening arrest if the fines weren't paid. These scammers used real names of federal judges and spoofed caller IDs to seem legitimate. Scared and confused, many victims complied to avoid perceived trouble. She shared her experience online on TikTok, describing how she was terrified and crying after the scammers contacted her. They knew personal details about her, including her address and date of birth. The scammers also provided real court information and a case number, convincing her to pay $750 to avoid jail. She spent 3 hours on the phone with them, flipping out like anyone would. U.S. District Judge Timothy Corrigan and U.S. Attorney Roger B. Hanberg have sent out warnings about these scams. They stressed that court officials will never demand payment over the phone and that any fines are imposed in court, not through phone calls. They advised hanging up immediately and reporting such calls to federal authorities. So keep in mind that courts send jury summons by mail, not by phone. Any suspicious calls should be verified by contacting the court directly, which seems to be good advice for pretty much any weird phone call these days. Jury scams should be reported to the District Court Clerk's Office, U.S. Marshal Service, or Federal Trade Commission. And that's just what jury duty needs, right? Now we have to double check that it's real too. Getting those summons in the mail is already like getting a bill in the mail. Number 2, unusual arrangements. Nicholas Hostetler, a 25-year-old from California, was arrested for 2 different physical confrontations involving 2 elderly men in Campbell. Of course, the entire community was up in arms, since the incidents happened without any apparent reason or provocation. The first incident went down on a quiet road in Campbell. Hostetler went up to an elderly man and unexpectedly went after him. After his physical confrontation with the elderly man, he then decided to actually strike a pose for some weird reason for a photo taken by the victim to identify him. Luckily, the weird picture became a key piece of evidence that led to his arrest. The Campbell Police Department released the photo to the public, seeking help in identifying Hostetler. A few weeks later, Hostetler confronted another 75-year-old man during his morning walk near a different quiet neighborhood. Again, he went after the elderly man. There was no picture this time, but once the confrontation was over, the victim and his family returned to the scene later to look for surveillance cameras, and to their surprise, found Hostetler again. Hostetler, who must have a couple screws loose, attempted to engage the whole family family before leaving the area. The police, who were already on high alert from the first incident, intensified their search efforts. Officers canvassed the area and reviewed surveillance footage. The photo was widely circulated and eventually led to Hostetler's identification. With the cooperation of Hostetler's parents, the police arrested him without incident. And everything seemed fine until he was booked and charged. He started freaking out and aggressively resisting arrest down at the station, landing him an additional charge against one of the officers. At the time of this video, he's sitting in jail awaiting his day in court. The scary thing about this is there was never any specific reason given for why Hostetler went after the elderly victims or why he had that one take his picture. It's like the first Scream movie where the motive was that there wasn't one. Anyway, it seems like Hostetler's actions were random and unprovoked, but they sound a lot like those idiotic TikTok pranks. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here to find out why her boyfriend decided to sue her after she won the lottery. Number 1. The Long Con. Georgia con artist Ernest Williams was accused of fraudulently marrying Steve Harvey's radio show co-host Shirley Strawberry and using her notoriety to scam at least 25 other victims out of more than $750,000. Williams, who's also known as Nesto, was indicted by a Fulton County grand jury on 39 counts of fraud. According to court documents, Williams engaged in a pattern of racketeering activity from December of 2009 to June of 2022. Targeting victims primarily in Georgia, but also in other states. Williams, pretending to be a successful businessman, allegedly stole hundreds of thousands from his victims. And it wasn't just money either. His alleged thefts included personal vehicles, motorcycles, coach buses, trailers, automotive parts, and real estate properties. The scammer focused mainly on women, promising to help them with new business ventures, promote their existing businesses, or build their brand or image. Apparently, Williams had been pretending to be a legitimate businessman while stealing from people. The historic schemer often used the illusion of romantic or close personal relationships to manipulate and exploit his victims. Williams's ability to scam was bolstered by his marriage to Shirley Strawberry, co-host of the Steve Harvey Morning Show. Documents allege he knowingly entered into a fraudulent marriage with Strawberry, using her celebrity status to convince victims of his legitimacy as a prominent businessman. Strawberry married Williams in January of 2015, but it was later revealed that he was already married to someone else at the time. The popular radio host filed for divorce in April of 2023, although they had been separated since March of 2022. During his decade-long scam run, which is really crazy that he kept it up for that long, Williams recruited multiple co-conspirators, most notably Erica King. King allegedly assumed the identities of multiple attorneys to deceive law enforcement and the courts, even appearing in court and representing Williams fraudulently. Williams and King were finally arrested in October of 2023 after Roswell police found out about their schemes. Williams, who has over 39 fraud charges filed against him, faces significant jail time if found guilty, since several of his fraud counts exceed $24,999, and each one of those carries a possible 2 to 20-year sentence. Additionally, filing a false marriage license in Georgia could result in another 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. As of the release of this video, Williams is being held at the Cobb County Jail awaiting his next court appearance. The scary thing about this scam is that this guy maintained a fake marriage and scammed that many people for that long. How can this guy be married to someone for that long and be scamming them the whole time? This guy acted like he was a guru, but instead, he just wanted to play the part of a guru. And he decided to sue his lottery winner ex because she had given away his stuff. Let's get right to the people we thought we could have trusted. Number 3, not so hot yoga. When Bikram Choudhury started his yoga practice in the 70s, he started with some extraordinary claims. He said that he had coached Elvis Presley and somehow saved Richard Nixon from a leg amputation through his practice. Before long, Bikram had picked up an elite following in Los Angeles. Everyone wanted to try out his practice, and stars like Shirley MacLaine and Quincy Jones were early adopters. Because of this elite following, his business grew in leaps and bounds, and he was soon training teachers for $10,000 a pop. All of these led Bikram to building up a fortune. With his wealth came fame, and even more wealth. After a while, Bikram became a global superstar. His name was on yoga centers all around the world, and he was called a Grand Master of Yoga by many. He was truly living the American dream. But Bikram wasn't what he seemed. He wasn't this slightly eccentric and enlightened guru who led people to the path of truth. Instead, he was something else. He was something horrifying. And it wasn't until a few years ago that the truth about Bikram got out. In 2013, the first concrete claims that would break Bikram's false image came from one of his female ex-students. After that claim came several others making the same accusations. It appeared that Bikram had made extremely inappropriate moves and actions towards his students while he taught them. However, instead of apologizing for the harm he caused and taking responsibility, Bikram had another thing in mind. He laughed at the accusations and said that it was ridiculous for him to be accused of inappropriate behavior with female students. He said that women loved and liked him, and there was absolutely no need for him to behave inappropriately with them. What he insinuated by this was that he could have his way with any woman he wanted because they all loved him. But the numerous women who have leveled accusations against Bikram disagree vehemently with his defense. Sarah Bond, one of the women accusing Bikram, said that he told her that her career as a yoga instructor could never advance if she didn't allow him to have his way with her. That was just one of the numerous accusations of impropriety leveled against Bikram in his 50-year career as a yoga instructor. Incredibly, Bond's accusations were even mild compared to the more severe accusations of assault from other women like Jill Lawler. Jill claimed that Bikram had non-consensual relations with her when she was just 18 years old. Of course, Bikram denies all of this. When asked about these accusations on HBO's Real Sports program, he had extremely degrading things to say about Jill and the other women accusing him. He first of all argued that all of them were liars and were out to dent his reputation and destroy his business. He then said that if he needed women to have intimate relations with, he could easily make them line up for his attention. He even said that some women go into deep depression just because they want to be intimate with him. But those weren't the only outrageous claims he made. He said that he could make millions every day because many women wanted to pay him to have consensual relations with him. To round it all up, he called Sarah Bond, his primary accuser, a psychopath. Outside his issues with harassment accusations, Bikram also had interesting things to say about yoga in general. He said that he works for 24 hours every day and doesn't sleep or eat. And this wasn't an exaggeration or hyperbole on his part. He reaffirmed his statement when he was asked again and said that his practice of yoga means he does not need to sleep or eat. When he was asked how that affects his health, he said it does not. He even said that he knew 1 billion times more than all doctors combined and that every single doctor in the world came to learn medicine from him. In a way, Bikram had the confidence to speak like this because he knew that he could get away with a lot of what he had done. Many of the accusations he faced were from decades ago, and as a result, many of his accusers had nothing but their words as evidence. But one of the women accusing him, a lady named Meenakshi Jaffa Badin, sued him for gender discrimination, wrongful termination, and harassment while she worked for him between 2011 and 2013. Jaffa Badin won the civil case and was awarded $6.5 million. But Bikram was determined not to pay this money and fled the United States after the judgment. This meant that he evaded service of official papers and is now a fugitive in the U.S. However, Bikram's fugitive status in America hasn't stopped him from still training teachers and attending seminars outside America. According to his lawyers, Bikram's permanently traveling the world and continues to give his lectures wherever he can. It may sound like our yoga guru got away scot-free, but he did no such thing. By 2017, Bikram had been wrecked by debts from numerous legal judgments, and he was forced to file for bankruptcy protection. By the time he left the country, he left behind his luxury collection of cars, and they're worth a lot of money. These cars include a dozen Rolls Royces, 5 Bentleys, a 1971 Pontiac Le Mans, a 1973 Ford Mustang Mach 1, and a Ford GT40. These cars were all seized by the state to settle as creditors. Amazingly, Bikram still hid some of his cars to stop them from getting seized. Unfortunately for him, the existence of these hidden vehicles has been verified and they'll be found. While Bikram may still be a traveling yoga superstar, he's a significantly poorer one. Despite losing his luxury cars and most of his belongings in the States, he still hasn't settled all his creditors and still owes lots of debt. Number 2. Hot sauce. Marie Holmes was a single mother working 5 jobs to support her 4 children when it was announced that she had won the $188 million Powerball jackpot in 2015. The win instantly took her from lower-class single mom to one of the richest people in her city. She became extraordinarily wealthy overnight and suddenly had millions of dollars to spend. One incredible thing about her win was that the lottery numbers she played had been picked by her mother. The numbers themselves were inspired by a dream her mother had about a deceased son. The numbers were supposed to reflect the son's age and how old he would be if he hadn't kicked the bucket. Before winning the lottery, Marie was a single mother of 4 children living in a trailer in the backwaters of town. She also worked 5 jobs, which include stints at Walmart, Food Lion, KFC, McDonald's, and Subway. She also had a pretty rough childhood and saw her father go to prison. Before she won the lottery, her father was in jail serving a 5-year sentence. 2 years before Marie won the lottery, she began dating a man named Lamar McDowell. She met McDowell when she worked as a server and had only 3 children. In the 2 years before winning the lottery, Marie had a kid with McDowell, and they began a serious relationship. However, things were about to change for both of them in different ways. 2 months before Marie won the lottery, McDowell was arrested for trafficking charges and had bail set at $3 million. Of course, at the time, Marie had no choice but to leave him in jail because she couldn't post his bail. But all of that changed when she won the lottery and suddenly had a lump sum of $88 million sitting pretty in her bank account. After winning, Marie immediately posted bail for her fiance and got him free. But that was just the beginning of her bail posting adventures. Before McDowell was released, he was given strict bail conditions and was given a curfew. Barely 3 months later, law enforcement realized that he'd broken his curfew and they visited his home to execute a search warrant. On searching his home, they discovered a gun, which made them rearrest him. This time he had a bail of $6 million, and Marie made sure she was stuck with the bill again. 5 months later, McDowell was arrested for breaking conditions for his bail again. This time he was arrested for conspiring to organize an illegal street race. Marie again put up the guarantee for the bail, which was about $12 million. That meant she would have to pay around $21 million if McDowell, for any reason, didn't appear for his trial. Aside from bailing him out 3 separate times with millions of dollars, Marie also bought expensive gifts for McDowell. These gifts include a 1966 BLK Chevy Chevelle, a 2015 V Chevy Stingray, a $15,000 Rolex watch, an automotive shop, and trucks and tools to operate the shop with. Marie did all of this because she was committed to their relationship and expected McDowell to build a family with her. McDowell finally had his trial in 2016 and was sentenced to 10 years in prison and is due to be released in 2023. At the time of his sentencing, Marie was already his fiancée and they planned to get married once he got out of jail. But that wasn't to be. A few years after going to prison, McDowell learned from a friend that Marie had started dating someone new and had sold everything she had bought for him. McDowell decided to sue Marie for selling the items and cars she had bought for him after learning about her relationship with another person. He told the court that it was true. He owed nothing before meeting her, but he also said that he expected her to not sell his items. While filing his case, he admitted that none of the items were in his name and actually belonged to Marie legally. However, he claimed that she didn't act in his best interests as she had his power of attorney, and therefore he deserved financial compensation. Maybe when he gets out in 2023, he'll take that up with her personally. Number 1. Thumb scamming. Guy Griffith is a Hollywood producer who was accused of defrauding 25 investors of around $4.5 million through a worthless business. If you look up Guy Griffith, what you'd find is an IMDb bio profile that's unnecessarily long, claiming that Griffith had a tough upbringing and is basically an exceptional businessman who's breaking new ground in Hollywood. His bio says that he bought a condo at 16 years old and started his own mortgage brokerage at 22. While his IMDb profile may be fantastic, his resume when it comes to making moves is not really that extraordinary. He specializes in movies made in VR formats, and they include box office bombs like The Humanity Bureau starring Nicolas Cage and fringe movies like The Recall starring Wesley Snipes. His IMDb profile may bill him as the next best thing in Hollywood, but the evidence suggests otherwise. Interestingly, Griffith's most popular work isn't the movie with Nicolas Cage or Wesley Snipes. It's actually a mockumentary on thumb wrestling called WTF, which stands for World Thumb Wrestling Federation. Yes, that title was a little bit on the nose, but the film was actually moderately successful. Okay, we admit, the name was actually kind of good. But that's really where it ends for Griffith and Bridgegate, the film production company that he was president of. The company has never made any blockbusters, and maybe the lack of success with making movies was was what led Griffith to his next venture. Guy Griffith's next business was a joint venture with a businessman named Robert Russell. Russell had a business called SMRB LLC that grew medicinal herbs, if you know what we mean. Let us just call these herbs Mary Jane for short. Griffith wanted in on this business, so he struck a deal with Russell to buy a 49% stake in the business for about $1.5 million. However, Griffith didn't actually have the funds to put up for the purchase, so he went about raising money for the operation by selling stakes in the company. Remember, he hadn't yet purchased the stakes, and yet he was already selling shares from it. If that sounds legally dodgy, you're right, but it gets even worse. SMRB LLC was domiciled in Washington State, and according to Washington State law, owners of medical herb growing companies must be residents and must be investigated and approved by the state's regulatory board. Griffith and Russell didn't abide by those rules, so the shares that Griffith actually bought were worth nothing. Despite that, Griffith managed to get 25 investors who were willing to own shares in the company. The 25 investors put up around $5 million, which should have been more than enough for the operation. But Griffith overplayed his hand and got more capital than he even wanted. Since there was a real business behind the scheme, Griffith was able to take potential investors on tours of the facilities and actually showed them what their money would be used for. In agreements with the investors, he promised them both a cut of ensuing profits from the sale of the herbs and an ownership interest in the company itself. This way, he was able to convert a lot of prospective investors to actual investors. Instead of investing the money in the business, he diverted a huge chunk of it for his personal needs. Griffith was able to keep up the fraud for a while by paying dividends from capital gotten from other investors. This, of course, is the textbook definition of a Ponzi scheme. Aside from that, the investors didn't receive certificates or documentation of their shares and basically got nothing to prove that they in fact owned shares in the company. Meanwhile, the company itself was stuck in a rut and was not doing well. So, where did the chunk of the capital paid by investors actually go? According to a complaint submitted to the SEC, they went to Griffith's movie production company. At least $1.7 million went into his personal bank account, and he bought a $250,000 yacht from the funds too. He also bought a slew of vehicles, including a 2008 Bentley Continental, a 2012 Mercedes-Benz, a 2013 Ford Mustang, and a 2015 Porsche Panamera. Interestingly, almost none of the misappropriated funds can be traced to Russell. Russell's lawyer argues that his client only knew about the original $1.5 million raised by Griffith to purchase a stake in the company, and that he had no idea about the remaining $3.5 million separately raised by Griffiths. But the SEC didn't accept that argument and sued both Griffith and Russell to court in a civil case. In court, it was decided that Griffith would pay back roughly $5.3 million, while Russell would pay back around $600,000. The amazing thing about this judgment was that it didn't force Griffith or Russell to admit any wrongdoing, and since it wasn't a criminal case, they'll probably not go to jail either. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comment section what you think is the better seat on a plane, window or aisle.